Listening session and report to the council.
Yeah, you can sit down.
Join us.
Come on. Just standing weirdly. Thank you.
I've got you
Thank
covered.
you. Okay. Good evening, Equity Commission. I'm Brianna. Before you tonight, we have the report from the 2025 listening tour. This report is structured quite similarly to last year's with just a few differences. We did provide this report earlier in October, so hopefully you had a chance to read through it or skim through it. What you'll see in the report is a summary of the listening sessions from this year, and then a very brief demographic summary. So we anticipate there were about 15 attendees through all of the sessions based on our notes, with about 16 respondents who completed the online survey. To note, and you'll see it within this document, that we didn't provide demographic information about the in-person attendees in this report. That information was optional, but since only just a few people provided it, it seemed too few to include in the report to allow them to still maintain some of that anonymity. You will see just some information about the demographics of the online respondents. Within the document, each topic, which as you know, each session had its own topic, with some sessions duplicating twice. It is summarized what was discussed in those sessions as a whole. And then the survey respondent information was provided within each topic as relevant, meaning that some topics only had one respondent who provided a survey response, with some only having two respondents having a survey response, and so forth. Most respondents online only responded to one topic, not multiple topics, based off of that survey that they provided. That can't really tell if they went back and did a second survey or not. So that information and their sentiments are included within each topic. In the conclusion, or kind of to give you a overall perspective and what we've gleaned, is a lot of the sentiments we heard are sentiments that we hear and have heard. They were things that we heard from last year, and while we had pointed topics this session, for example, the historic preservation and cultural heritage, some of their sentiments were sentiments that we have heard, and that we kind of did hear last year when we heard from some folks in last session say that they want to see more historic preservation or to know more about Pflugerville's history. Were similarly things that we heard from this session. We had a lot of participants that had strong feelings about transportation and connectivity and mobility, which is something that we have heard in the past, and things that the city is working on to address that, such as the Transportation Mobility Master Plan, which many of the sentiments we heard are reflected within that master plan, and steps that the city is taking to address those concerns, as well as the capital improvement program, our parks and recreation event planning, our parks and recreation master plan, the 2040 Aspire 2040 comprehensive plan, the city's strategic plan, which was adopted earlier this year and will go into effect 2026, although we already start working on those things now. Were all things that we heard, and kind of just reiterated that we are working on those things. So this plan, what you'll see, isn't included are recommended actions, or the report. Last year you saw those recommended actions in the report, but due to the sentiments that we heard and the action that the city is already taking, that's why that section isn't included, because they're already making steps with the various plans in effect now. So yeah, that is a very high overview. I can jump into each topic if you'd like, but I was hoping you had the chance to read it, so I wouldn't need to do that, but I'm happy to do so if you'd like me to. Any questions?
I have some suggestions around some various parts of the report.
Okay.
And I can go through some of them, but I think a lot that I heard was around like transparency and accessibility. to understanding like what's going on in the city, what's being invested in, what's happening at council meetings, things like that. So I have some suggestions here that I kind of just noted down. One is kind of a plain language council summary of city council meetings. Right now it's a little dense to read, and it might be helpful for our residents to be able to review and understand in a good way what's actually going on and being invested in the changes happening day to day. And I think that would help city council kind of get the point across as to what they're investing in, where they're looking at, and things like that. So,
Okay.
and I don't want to bogart everything, so you guys can totally do it. But my other one was a local business spotlight. I think you guys already do this. Monthly promotions of small businesses to keep dollars circulating locally. And maybe like a Did You Know outreach series with highlighting city services. And I think you guys are kind of doing that as well through the communications department. And then the last thing in terms of transparency, it's kind of highlighting what we do have in place in terms of trails and sidewalk and transit. Maybe a map that could help people understand where the parks are, where the trails are, things like that. So.
Awesome. Well,
There you go.
I could certainly add those notes in here, but I do want to highlight just the local business spotlight will actually be releasing a short series through our communications department, which I think premieres this Friday, that will highlight our local businesses in Pflugerville, restaurants in Pflugerville, starting with our downtown Pflugerville area, and then future iterations will expand out there. We also, you did allude to it when mentioning it, but the highlight city services is something through PF Insider, our video series.
I remember the communications director talking about that.
Yeah. But certainly can always improve and do more of that. And then our team is actually actively working on a trail map right now. And I'm hoping.
That's exciting.
I don't know, Emily, do you know when it'll be finalized?
It should be pretty soon.
It should be pretty, like they're nearing like
Final touches.
the design, the pretty stuff of it.
This is where the trail capital of Texas. It's like, let's really get it out there and
Yes.
make sure people are using that as a service in the city.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, absolutely.
Just because, it's that time of year coming up where either we're reapplying to continue our service or not, and reporting back to city council, and I feel like we're always up against like, what did y'all do? What did you accomplish? So I want to make sure if the work of the committee, if the listening sessions themselves helped informed some of these things, it's not about getting credit per se, but I also don't like feeling like being asked, like, what did y'all do? What are you doing? Like, what value is there? So if there is value coming from having this commission and being a forum for these listening sessions and these ideas, like, I want that to be clear, because it just doesn't feel good to be sort of in a position of like, y'all literally accomplished nothing, what's the point? So was it helpful, or was it an instigator to the city actually doing some of these things, or you all were gonna do it anyways and the committee had nothing to do with it? Where does it fall in the spectrum?
That's a good question.
So a lot of what it was is, there, through the session, sometimes little things would pop up. Hey, the signal at this session, or at this intersection is really slow. And those little things, right? They're not little, they're important to whoever's going through that intersection. But those things, we were able to immediately send to the appropriate director and say, hey, can we look into this? Can we fix this if possible? Those bigger conversations were things that we were doing. It is the common theme that we saw, right? Transportation, wanting trails to be a mobility piece and not just a recreation piece. That was something already implemented and discussed within the mobility master plan, right? And so it reinforced that the city's on the right track and that we're doing the things that our community wants us to do.
Yeah.
So while it may not have spurred new action per se, it did let us know, okay, we are hearing
You're on
it.
the right track.
We're on the right
validating.
track. We're doing what people want us to do, which is great, especially when you're already approving a plan and you're hearing things and you're like, okay, we are on the right track and we're doing what our community wants us to do. So it did have valuable feedback, and it did help us know that we were moving in the right direction, but I can't say that it spurred something new.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Cool. Validating is good too. I didn't think
Yeah, and
about
I kind of had something very similar to what you were thinking, kind of the equity, it said dashboard here, but it's kind of like what we heard, what the city's doing, where to learn more, kind of just things like that on the city website. Just supporting that we're listening to the public and we're actually doing these things that are beneficial to them, and then we're still listening. So it still gives us that contextual element of being down on the ground and actually in the community, so.
Okay. So, action tonight, this item is on the agenda for action. It's for you to adopt the report. And so once you've accepted and adopted this report, we'll provide it to our city council. If you'd like, you can adopt the report with the amendments provided by Corey, so that I'll just go in and add those few sentences in to the transparency and accessibility section. Yeah.
Okay. And I did have one more, just so
Yeah.
I make sure I get it in. In terms of history and preservation, small markers like QR codes that tell the history of a building or a space or anything that's renovated, maybe having artifacts in there or murals that represent the past of Pflugerville, also documented and it still connects you back to where we come from and where we're still going.
Good idea. Yep.
Question for you, Brianna. And you're probably aware of this, what limitations do we have as a body who we are allowed to partner with? Because I came in here and I was thinking, going towards 2026, I want us to think bigger, you know what I'm saying? And we did a great job, with the listening sessions, but there's no colleges or universities in the city of Pflugerville, but we have hospitals, we have Baylor and Scott, we have, Austin, regional clinic. Do we have any limitations through partnerships? I think that's a space we can maybe lean into to get not even more feedback, but different avenues to spread the, mass, advantages of this equity community. You know what I'm saying? So, something that, I don't know if this has been discussed before, I don't know how the, team feels about it, but I think we can probably think a little bit bigger as far as partnerships.
Yep, so Emily, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we're always open to hear feedback from all of our community members, whether that's a resident, someone that lives here, a business owner, or someone who works in Pflugerville.
Even the hospitals.
Hospital,
Okay, so there's- okay, that's good.
anyone that wants to work with us and provide feedback, we're always open, whether it's through this platform, meeting with our planning department specifically, or the Pflugerville Community Development Corporation, or staff one-on-one, or even the commissioners. We are always welcome to sitting down and talking with anyone, hearing their feedback and seeing how we can work together.
Even I was thinking Austin, community college, even though it's not of, say, Pflugerville per se, but there's probably thousands of Pflugerville students, if we can, I don't mind any way in my capacity I can assist in that, but I think it's a good idea for just kind of a stretch beyond, Pflugerville towards 2026. And, because I don't want anyone to think that, our goals, our missions are just the word of equity and charity, like people think, but we are also efficiency and foresight, and so I just, ideas that I think we should definitely expand into, because it's so much, businesses out there, that can help us, especially hospitals and education systems. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really important to engage the kids. We're getting kind of the middle age, a little older, but still hearing from those children in the community and understanding that. That's a way to grow the base of who we're hearing from, and maybe we're partnering with the school system or something like that. Maybe just a simple little like survey or something that the kids don't have to like totally
Yeah.
put everything into.
Yeah,
So.
I know, my elementary, there's so many, talking to principals, you know what I'm saying, just different feedback. So,
I'm going to touch base on how we did engage with kids, like through the strategic plan and the youth advisory commission.
Yeah, so we do have the Youth Advisory Council, which includes students from Pflugerville ISD high schools. And they go through, they we gauge what they're interested in. So that way we can tailor exactly what departments go and speak with them, because sometimes I went and I spoke to them about legislation. I don't think they were quite interested after the 30 minutes I was there. But they were a lot more interested in what Emily had to say about development, right? But they asked for it, we gave it. I think they realized that's not for us. But we do engage with our high school students that way. They've actually were instrumental in developing our strategic action plan. We hosted 2 sessions with the high school students through YAC, and they gave a lot of great feedback about where they'd like to see the city go, what they'd like to see in the city, developments they would like to see. Turns out roller skating is super in right now, and line dancing. Don't know if y'all knew that. We didn't know that until we talked with them, right? So they've been instrumental with that, and they're always at the forefront of our mind on how we can get their feedback moving forward. They loved it. We loved hearing from them. They gained a lot of interest. In the strategic action plan, we also went to an elementary school and met with 5th grade students. And got their feedback on where they'd like to see the city go, how they feel about where it is today, and where they want to see it go. What was great about both of those groups in the strategic action plan was we learned they're very aligned with adults. You would think sometimes, you might think students are saying Disney World and zoos. Some kids are saying that, but So are some adults, but they were quite aligned with the adults that we spoke to. Those 2 groups are very different groups, and so because that was so successful and worked so well. We're constantly thinking about how we can engage the kiddos. At Slice of Pflugerville this year, we also had a booth on downtown, and we made sure that our activity was something that adults and kids could participate in. The kids, I think, loved it way more than the adults did. They had stickers. We asked them, what do you want to see in downtown? And we gave them stickers to write on what they wanted to see, and they put it on, admittedly, a shower curtain that was hanging up in our tent. And the kids came up with amazing ideas, like a zoo. They want a zoo in downtown. Some wanted more, parks and restaurants and things like that. So certainly something we've seen success with that we'll continue to make sure is at the forefront as we move forward.
excellent.
Awesome.
Okay.
I got one more, or
Shoot.
I got 2 more things.
Okay.
Okay. So just because we've been talking about the warming centers and the cooling centers in the winters and summers, like a emergency preparedness toolkit, like a 1-pager, just like kind of being able to send out through schools, churches, HOAs, libraries, just access to what's out there if you get in trouble in the winter or the summer. These are where to go, and this is where your resources are. Might be handy.
Good.
And then the last one is kind of a volunteer directory, like one central page listing like all the commissions you can join, the library volunteers, the youth roles, the neighborhood opportunities, and things like that. So that might be already there, but those are, and now I'm done.
Thank you.
It's positive. That's good stuff.
All right, anything else?
I think the wrap-up comment that I have here is that it seems like, one, it's great that we're doing these listening tours, because I did hear constant feedback that the citizens are happy to have an outlet for us to share our opinions. That does help validate that we're on the right track. We do need to find a way of how to close that loop, though, when we do have individuals that we're working with in the listening tour that are confirming that there's problems that we are fixing. We need to figure out how we can help close that loop to letting know, like, we are working on it, and here's where you get that information to work on it. And I think I'll actually put us on the line for that too going forward, that considering that we have 2 years plus worth of insight on some of the things that are going to be constantly coming up for citizens, it would probably do us all well on the commission to educate ourselves with some of the things that the city is working on. So when we are addressing that, when we are set up during the listening tour and people are sharing that, we're like, oh, actually, we are working on this, and here how you can get this information. So we're doing a two-prong. We're not only just listening, but we're also serving, because we're citizens also in Pflugerville and a commissioner, to actually share that information. And it gives us an air of credibility because we actually know what's going on in our city. So.
And if I can. I think that was part of the purpose of some of the presentations that we would sit through with different departments. Like they kind of served that purpose too, to help share back information with us, right? As to what was happening and going on. That could help us even refine recommendations, right? So I do kind of miss some of those sessions that we were having with different departments.
Yeah, I get similar feedback as to like, you know, what is the Equity Commission? What is it doing? Like, kind of like maybe just a one-page handout that says this is what's been done, this is where it formed, kind of something to just contextualize the listening session for the participants that are there, so they got something to at least take away, and they might have some resources. All right. All right, so.
Questions, concerns?
Yeah.
Motion to,
go ahead. Motion to
adopt
approve the,
As amended.
as amended.
with the
Yeah.
updated amendments.
I'll second the motion. Are you voting? Yes.
Yep.
In favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? And again,
Okay,
all
thank you.
ayes has it ordered.
All right, so we can go on to 4B, and we are kind of already talking about a little bit of this. So, discuss and consider actions regarding the structure of the Equity Commission.
What's your tag team?
Oh, there you go.
Dance around a little bit.
Let's do it.
So I think following up just on the conversation you just had, we wanted to bring forward maybe a new concept for the Equity Commission, and really to adjust the Equity Commission to become an equity task force. I know that we've struggled, the commission has struggled on kind of really seeking that purpose for what the Equity Commission does, and we know your time is valuable and that you'll have wonderful ideas and different initiatives and things to move forward. And so what we'd like to propose is amending the commission to become an equity task force, where it would be similar setup. We'd have the same, similar number of members, but it would meet on, we'll go as needed, right? And so the idea being that the Equity Commission would hear about initiatives, whether they're brought up from city council, a resident, or city staff. So, for example, Chloe is helping us on an update to our Unified Development Code from the lens of equity. And there are other initiatives, master plans, the strategic plan, or a variety of things that come up in the community. Could be transportation comes up quite a bit, as y'all heard during the listening sessions, that needs your that specific attention focused on that particular issue. And so in kind of thinking about how to best utilize this commission and your time and effort, our thought is to create a task force instead of the commission focused on initiatives, where y'all would then meet to discuss those, however they're brought forward, and it'd still be staffed similar to this, and we bring in those experts to talk about that, and then get your feedback and recommendations on how to proceed in those specific initiatives. And so we want to have that discussion tonight. As we're going through to appointments in December, we want to make sure that that's well articulated so that we would be able to edit the ordinance that created the commission, to create that task force. Our proposal would be to make those edits, and then in January, when that task force is then set, that we go through kind of what the rules and procedure look like for creating what those initiatives are with the input of the task force, so that whenever they come up, we're on the same page, that whether it's an application online for a resident to say, hey, I'm seeing this issue, I'd like the equity task force to take a look at it, or council has something, or even city staff can come through to the commission with that specific request, because I think over time, it's been a lot of data gathering, and then I think the listening sessions, while Brianna mentioned that have been very helpful, it's always important and crucial to get engagement. And so where they're not new ideas necessarily, that has been critical for us to do that same path. But when we do need those kind of alignments of a new initiative, the voice of the equity task force will be critical. And so our hope is that that gives a specific task for this group to do, and not feel like we're only reaching 20 people at a listening session, for example. And so we wanted to throw that out to all of you this evening so that we can make those edits, get your feedback on that, take that forward to City Council before the board and commission appointments come up in December.
18, this is an important topic. I'm sure we all realize that, and I'm really curious everyone's feedback in this topic, because I definitely like the idea. I do have a bevy of concerns. I have to be very, honest, and my main concern is the term of task force. Not that it's perceived to me, but it can be perceived to others in a way that is aggressive.
Okay.
Not that I perceive it that way, but others can perceive it that way. And I may not be the only one that believes that, but the term task force, maybe, and please tell me, feedback is my best friend, team. If we can possibly think of another name, another term. But when I think of task force, I think you have a mission to accomplish the mission because of an objective, but it's a serious issue that needs to be accomplished because of X, Y, Z. And if it's not accomplished, it may be a causality. You know what I'm saying? It's a task force, So if you have a task force for your job, you're going to take that task force very seriously, but it's a task force.
Yep.
So I want the body let me know how you feel about the term task force.
And it could be, as y'all are thinking about it, it could be that it's still the Equity Commission, and it's the goals within the structure
Right.
that is
Right.
a task
And
force.
see, correct me if I'm wrong, I was thinking the term equity commission would be eradicated as well, right? The term wouldn't be there anymore, right? Because it would be amended. Would it still be there, or would it be?
I mean, I think you bring up a good point.
Okay,
We
cool.
could
Yeah.
still
Okay.
certainly refer to it as
Okay,
the
got
Equity
it.
Commission.
Okay, I thought it was just leaving
Right.
and just
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
new name.
That was the idea, that it was the Equity Task Force.
It's
But
okay.
I think the name, I mean, that's a great point, and I'd love to hear from the rest of the commission about that. I don't know that we're so concerned about the name of the commission, right? It could stay Equity Commission. It's really about the role.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. I just didn't want anyone to be misconstrued because they perceive a task force that maybe is potentially not aligned with equity, you know what I'm saying? So I think we really should be aligned on the
Being
name.
sensitive to that
on the
language.
team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And much respect to anyone who thought of that name. It's very creative. Nothing against it. I don't necessarily think it's aggressive, but I just think about the community and how they may perceive it,
Sure.
And so that's a concern of mine.
Okay.
I think this is a really good idea. I'll be transparent, I think I have been waiting for this kind of opportunity of the shift of this commission. And it's not that we don't value the listening tour. I think we still need to keep it in some form or fashion. We need to kind of restructure how we want to do it. But I think we would lose our value as a commission if we lose our ear to the ground.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I also think that we have a lot of muscle that we can flex in terms of providing value to the different departments and towards the different initiatives of the city when we are looking at it through an equitable lens. And that even helps us get our grips deeper into these initiatives so we can speak intelligently and confidently about it,
Absolutely.
because we actually have skin in the game.
Yeah.
So I think what I think my only concerns, just at face value, is, are we, if we're thinking about as needed, do we have an idea of how often that would be? It's like just ballpark figure, because I also, I don't want us to be too overwhelmed, but I'm not even worried about that. I'm actually worried about sitting around like the Maytag guy.
Wait for the call.
Yeah, so I don't want us to do that.
I agree.
But, because I know that Pflugerville's are usually already kicking off a lot of initiatives already, like got a lot of irons in the fire. So, but I just want to make sure that we're able to be utilized, like as soon as we get wind of an initiative spinning up for like the new year or something like that, that we're plugged in so we can help support.
Okay, yeah. I think we can leave it flexible in the ordinance, and then when we kind of look at kind of the procedures for how that
Yeah.
goes, how and timing for when to engage.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm afraid for it to be too rigid, so
Yeah.
yeah, we can make it
A
flexible.
little,
Yeah.
little bit of flexibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just a thought, like, in how we engage. So, like, are we more in an advisory role as ourselves, or are we bringing in the community, and how do we, I guess, interface with the community the correct way to get the right feedback? So it's not just coming from maybe our own personal, biases and things like that. It's also coming from, like, a collective voice. So that would be in my mind. It's just how to maintain that.
Yeah. I think that too, that would really depend on what the initiative is.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like if it's building some sort of framework, like for instance for the UDC, like they've already have collected a lot of feedback from the citizens, but they also want other individuals as well with different lenses and perspectives to add, so you can just be yourself and add your self value into there. But if we're giving something that is a newer initiative, and there's let's say there's a work stream where we just don't we're making a big change in the city and we don't quite know how the citizens are going to feel about that, then that's when we go to work and also not just add in our input, but we work on how do we pull together like a listening tour or work with communication for a focus group or something where we can give feedback and then tailor our recommendations to the city council based on that.
That's a good point.
Me, my next?
Sure.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's in line with what the charter says to begin with about our advisory role.
Yeah.
As probably the longest serving one here, I did feel like that's been a gap where we haven't been invited in, and it's been more of this listening. But I recognize progress is incremental. So if we're gonna start now with a more deliberate getting pulled in for either our personal input and expertise based on our points of view, or, to your point, making sure that we keep our ear to the ground and that we're not just speaking for ourselves. I think it's the right direction. And I guess what I think about is the two-way mechanism. I know I have at times felt like, oh, I wonder why didn't we hear about it or were asked about it earlier after seeing the end program or result, right? So this kind of is saying, no, we're gonna go more towards that direction. And if we continue to see that we're not being engaged, well, I think that's gonna be the conversation we can have, right? Like, I thought our role was advisory, and we're not being necessarily, invited into the conversation or given an opportunity explicitly to be asked to give insight. So I think it's a move in the right direction. I want to acknowledge Omani's comments about the name. I guess it didn't strike me that way initially, but I'm open. I don't feel very strongly. I feel like you said, Emily, to me, it's more the substance
Which
than
matters,
the label.
right.
But if there are concerns about the label, then, let's make
More
sure
than
that we
just
don't.
our perspective, I'm just thinking for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not, I may have a blind spot there, but when you said that, like, oh, yeah, like, I want to be mindful of that.
Right.
So
Yep.
as long as, directionally and we're mindful of that, I think it's a good change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it helps how we're perceived both in the community and by council. So, and having that advisory role and being a little bit earlier, proving the contributions of the Equity Commission might be a little easier if we're in the beginning stages of planning and things like that. So,
I mean, it is a good opportunity to reinforce sort of a change in direction and approach to have a different title. I don't know what that title is, and maybe we can talk about that. But that could, and we'll ask ChatGPT. They can figure out what that is, so, just maybe more for the external public, right?
Yeah.
There's a change that's happened that may not otherwise be obvious. So that would be good.
yeah.
I got my creative hat on right now, so, just as something to throw out there, and we can, talk about it a little bit later, but when I think of the change, which I do agree with, the innovation is important right now. Not only where we at in a society, but we need to make that pivot. I think the city, wants us to do that as a whole, and not to stay stagnant. But for example, something I just thought of, instead of task force, something like solutions council, or innovation lab, just something that's more collaborative versus the task, that's all, so just something we can think about and the team can think about, but I think it's a great idea. And those objectives and those initiatives, those will be brought forth by the city towards us, correct? Right? And so we will take on spirit, whether it's police department, whether it's, medical, whether it's, educational, we'll take on those initiatives and put our best foot forward to try to accomplish the task.
Yeah.
Right, so, Solutions Council. And then, how does it work? If you can tell me cogently, I know we a little bit for time probably right now. How does it work with the changing of the naming, the ordinance, and everything? How does that process work so we can fully understand it? I know it has to go as far as the council, but how does that work as far as the language and getting it edified?
So, the commission was created by ordinance, so we'll take forward a red line of that ordinance, making some of those key changes about the goal, really, the objective of the commission. So we'll make those red line changes, incorporating your feedback this evening, to the city council, and then they would consider those changes. That's a 2-reading situation. All ordinances require 2 readings. So they would have a first reading and a second reading of that ordinance before it's official. And then if our timing all works out, that would happen, that second reading would happen just the week prior to board and commission appointments.
Got it. Cool. Got it. And that same council or task force, it will be the same appointments like in the past with the city and the mayor, or be different structured as voluntary?
Appointments come the same way
Okay,
for all
so
our
that'll be the
boards
same.
and commissions.
Okay, so that will continue the same.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. And they just look at the criteria for the board, like what's your, just like the interviews basically that you all went through,
So
right?
that's
What is
the
your
same.
experience in
Right.
these areas? So that they know the best placement
Got it.
for everyone
Got it.
that offers up your valuable time to serve the city.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yep.
So when do we have to Or is the name gonna come from us, and when do we have to decide that now?
Well,
or-
we can keep it as commission for now, because that seems like that's a good medium, right?
Continuity.
But I think that when we talk about, in January, we'll set your first meeting. When we talk about those rules and procedures, it's how is it promoted? So when we
Yeah.
put out like,
Yep.
here's the form you fill out for a resident, you have an equity concern. Talk to it could be more of the nickname, I guess,
Got it,
of
got
the
it.
group.
I got you.
We could do it that way, just formally through the ordinance, we can maintain equity commission if everyone is more comfortable with that.
The reason, I guess I'm curious, just because in my professional life, I've seen some movement away from the use of the word equity, just because of how it's been bashed
Right.
in an
Sure.
unproductive way. So I'm curious, there's been a trend to just change the.
Eliminate.
Say a certain word, change the name to like, keep it from, sort of tainting the objective at the end of the day, which is really about inclusion for all residents,
That's right.
period.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just thinking through that, would we ever consider a rebrand even with the equity term? And if we've seen other surrounding communities making such changes, because we're not the only equity commission or type group for a municipality in our area. I'm kind of curious to see if they've
There's not a lot.
rebranded in such a way.
Austin hasn't changed theirs,
Okay.
changing ours.
Yeah, I think it's a balance in making sure people of every stripe feel included, but also like we have a main objective to ensure that everyone is getting a fair shake and that the community is serving all of the citizens. So, I still like equity, but I think it's kind of like redefining almost to the community, I guess, our place and our purpose. And how we kind of go forward with that. So it might not even just be the name. It might just be how we carry ourselves and how we integrate with the city council and have those interfaces.
And I think this move actually galvanizes that, right? Because I've done so much stuff in DEI, but like when it comes to equity, a lot of people just don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Have no clue.
But they know what it is when you give them examples of what it's like. Like our library is the most equitable space
That's right.
in
That's right.
the city. Like, and you pull it out and it's like, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, they have like so many bilingual books, bilingual spaces. They have quiet spaces for people who are neurodivergent, who just needs quiet space. There's tons of these things. So I think the problem with the term equity is that most people have just done a good job explaining what it looks like in real life.
Right.
And I think that's also part of our job with this commission. And so us moving into where we're integrating more with the city in their planning and initiative, that even helps us further show that we're not just this one
Yes.
like entity floating in space. We're actually integrated with the system, which is how equity actually works.
That's right. Agreed.
I don't feel strongly about dropping it, I just wanted to have the
Yeah,
conversation.
No, I've
And-
seen it
and-
too. A
and
lot of people have been
especially
quick to
if-
drop it.
If the city doesn't feel like that's necessary for us to continue moving forward in the right direction, then
Yeah.
cool. Leave it.
Yeah, I think it's totally a valid point. Like just considering and understanding like the implications of some of those things and making sure that we're just casting a wide net and things like that. But I think we can keep the equity, but like kind of just have that redefinement of kind of that we're inclusive of all. We're pulling in people in, and it doesn't exclude someone. So it's tightrope to walk.
Yeah. Advisory board is also another,
I was thinking to
Advisory
advisory
board.
council,
Yeah, okay.
advisory board.
Equity
I
advisory
like
board.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I mean, that's really what we are.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna be.
So it changed, so it is a name change, but it so might do both, and it's a nice balance. Was
Yeah.
that, is
Yes.
that what you were thinking,
Yes.
advisory board? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a nice term.
Okay.
One more other note, Emily, this
Uh-huh.
leads me down a road of also, if we're gonna be moving as an advisory board, will we have the latitude to create like frameworks within our like commission? Meaning, we can't assume that everybody that comes in knows how to operate equitably. And we have to be able to operate equitably ourselves, like our operations, how we do things.
As a board, okay.
Yeah, as a commission.
Okay.
So I think it's time, like, if we're gonna be actually plugged into the city with their initiatives and being able to help support that, I think it would be helpful if we do have the latitude within this commission to create frameworks, so anyone who comes in, if they do need to, like, work and support, we can help guide them and also give them some fundamentals of, like, this is how you reach out to give other people, things around language, what proper language to use when you're doing these outreaches for recommendations, those type of things. It's very easy to do this work wrong, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay,
Indeed.
okay. That might be a good task.
Yeah. Good task within our task.
Indeed.
So it's a guidance for communicating amongst the board.
Yeah.
As well as kind of internally and externally. for the city.
Exactly, because
Okay.
like to Corey's point, there's gonna be times where we're gonna be doing outreach to the community. We need to be intentional how we do that.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and I don't even mind, us even having individual responsibilities. I want to go into 2026 where we make that pivot and make it strong and make it unique and make it captivating at
Okay.
the same time, And so, we can, show the city that we're making change and impact.
Okay.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve with all those amendments?
With the feedback provided, that you're open to
Yes.
that with and we'll
Yes.
incorporate those.
I'm glad you got
That concept, yeah, one we've got Brianna over here and Jennifer over here, so we should be, and luckily for Nathan's
There
recording.
you go,
so.
there you go. This is very productive.
Okay,
All right.
Very productive. I'm glad we had this talk.
yeah,
Cool.
okay.
And then we done. Motion to adjourn.
Yes, indeed. I will second that.
Second?
Okay,
All in favor? Yes.
All right.
thank you all for your
appreciate
time.
you.
Very
Yes.